The first thing I hear is a hiss. Not the kind that means danger, the kind that means pressure equalizing. A seal that held for a long time finally, giving out. It sounds like a sigh if sighs were mechanical and patient, and had been waiting 30 cycles to exhale. I don't open my eyes yet. My training, old training, embedded training, the kind that doesn't care how long you've been asleep, tells me to assess before revealing. Breathing, functional, shallow, lungs, stiff but working. Temperature, cold, maybe 12 degrees, consistent with a sealed environment running on minimal power. Sound beyond the hiss, voices. Two of them, high-pitched, clipped, speaking a language I almost recognize, galactic standard, but the accent has drifted. Vowels are shorter than I remember. Some words I don't know. Gravity, present, artificial by the feel of it. That faint hum in the bones that tells you the floor is lying about being a planet. Roughly 0.7 standard. Light station or orbital facility. Pain, everywhere but low grade. The kind that says your muscles haven't been used in a while and they'd like to register a formal complaint. I open my eyes. The ceiling is gray composite, institutional. There are conduit lines running across it in a pattern I don't recognize. The routing is more efficient than what I'm used to, which means the station has been retrofitted at least once since I was sealed. A light strip runs along the center, emitting a flat blue-white glow. The color temperature is wrong for humans. Too blue, not enough warmth. Alien standard. Two figures stand 4 meters to my left. I can see them in my peripheral vision without turning my head. They're Thesic. I recognize the species by the elongated cranial ridge and the double-jointed arms. Medium build, blue-gray skin, wide-set eyes with horizontal pupils. Technicians by their clothing. Coveralls with tool loops and sensor patches. One is holding a tablet, tapping rapidly. The other is staring at me with an expression I've seen before on alien faces. The expression of someone who opened a container expecting spare parts and found something alive. It's awake, the staring one says. I can see that. The one with the tablet says the file is corrupted. I can't get a species read. The stasis profile says the pod was sealed. Tap, tap, tap. 31 standard cycles ago. 31. This bay was supposed to be decommissioned in cycle 14. Why is there a live specimen in a decommissioned bay? I don't know. The maintenance flag only popped because the lock degraded past threshold. The system auto-unsealed. So the lock broke. The lock broke. They both look at me. I sit up slowly. My spine protests. Every vertebra files an individual grievance, but I've woken from worse. Not stasis, specifically, but worse. 12-hour combat, overwatch in a gravity well on Cathara V, where the atmospheric pressure tried to compress your lungs into fists. A 36-hour forced march through the volcanic flats on Dorsen, where the ground temperature was high enough to soften boot soles. Compared to those, waking from stasis is a gentle inconvenience. The body hurts, but the body is used to hurting. That's what it does. That's what bodies from Earth are for. Can you understand me? The tablet one asks. She's using slow, deliberate galactic standard, the way people talk to children or head injury patients. Yes, I say. My voice is dry. Sounds like gravel in a pipe. They both flinch. I'm not sure why. Then I realize they weren't expecting me to speak their language. The corrupted file probably didn't list my species as linguistically capable. I need water, I say. And a status report. Where am I? What cycle is it? And who holds this station? The tablet one blinks her horizontal pupils 3 times, which in Thesic body language means she's recalculating her assumptions. You're on Teveth Nor Station. Outer Shelf Jurisdiction. The current cycle is 4 Novus 58. The station is administered by the Taveth Commerce Authority, under charter from the Galactic Trade Concord. She pauses. What species are you? Human. They look at each other. The staring one says something in rapid Thesic that I don't catch. Too fast. Too many borrowed words I don't know. But I catch the tone. It's the tone of someone who just heard something they were not prepared to hear and is trying to decide if it's a joke or a problem. The tablet one turns back to me. Our records indicate that designation has been inactive for 30 cycles, I say. Give or take. I was here when it was active. I'd like that water now. They bring me water. It's in a sealed pouch with a sippy valve designed for Thesic mouths, which means I have to bite the valve off and drink from the hole, which I do without complaint. The water tastes like recycled station fluid, mineral flat, slightly metallic, processed through filters designed for species that don't need the trace elements humans require. It's not good water, but it's water, and I've been sealed in a pod for 31 cycles, and water is water. While I drink the tablet one, her name is Tessith, I learn runs through the intake protocol for displaced persons. This is apparently a category that exists now. It didn't exist 30 cycles ago. 30 cycles ago, there were no displaced persons because the galaxy hadn't yet gone through whatever it went through to create the need for such a Category. I file that information away. Context will come later. She asks me a series of questions. Name. Origin world. Reason for stasis. Next of kin. Kesmaro, I say. Origin world Earth. Sol system. Class 16 Death World under the old Hazard Designation Index. If that system still exists. Tessith's stylus stops moving. The staring one, his name is Drethus. The maintenance tech who found me takes one full step backward. Class 16, Tessith repeats. That's correct. The Hazard Designation Index was retired in Cycle 38. It was replaced by the Integrated Risk Framework. Class 16 under the old index would correspond to. She checks her tablet. Apex Predator Ecology Tier 1. That category has no active entries. It does now, I say. She looks at me for a long time. Then she continues the intake form as if I'd said something unremarkable, which I respect. Professionalism is professionalism, regardless of species. Reason for stasis, she says. I was a civilian infrastructure contractor on Relay Station Gauss 4, which was an outer shelf communications hub administered by the Concord. 31 cycles ago, a territorial dispute between the Vekri dominance and the Concord escalated into armed conflict in this sector. Gauss 4 was captured by Vekri forces. I was detained as a non-combatant specimen of strategic interest and placed in stasis for transport to a research facility. Apparently, the transport never happened. The Vekri conflict ended in Cycle 32, Tessith says. The dominance was dissolved under treaty. This station was transferred to Taveth Commerce Authority as part of the settlement. It's possible your records were lost during the administrative transition. It's more than possible, I say. It happened. I've been in this bay for 31 cycles because someone lost a file. Tessith nods, or performs the Thessic equivalent, a slight forward dip of the cranial ridge. I'm going to process you as a displaced person under Concord Regulation 4471. That gives you temporary transit papers, a 40-cycle residency permit, and access to basic services on the station. You'll need to register with the Bureau of Species Affairs for longer-term status. Do you have any financial resources? Not anymore. The Displaced Person Fund will cover basic needs for the first 20 cycles. After that, you'll need employment or a sponsor. She hesitates. Ms. Morrow, I want to be transparent with you. I've been a station intake officer for 11 cycles. I've processed displaced persons from 9 species. I have never processed a human. I don't know anyone who has. The general understanding is that your species is no longer active in Concord space. No longer active, I repeat. The Sol system was placed under interdiction in Cycle 29, 2 cycles before the Vekri conflict. All human nationals in Concord space were recalled. After the interdiction, there was limited contact. After the conflict, there was none. Earth's coordinates were removed from public star charts in Cycle 41. Most current databases classify Homo sapiens as a historical species. I finish the water, I fold the pouch and set it on the edge of the stasis pod. I'm not historical, I say. No, Tessith says, you are not. She hands me a transit chit, a small flat rectangle that hums when I touch it. It knows my biometrics now. It will open doors, authorize meals, log my location. Before you go, she says, I want to give you some context. The galaxy you're walking into is not the galaxy you left. I gathered. The Vekri conflict lasted 6 cycles and restructured most of the outer shelf. The dominance was dissolved. 17 relay stations were destroyed or decommissioned. Trade routes shifted. Species that were dominant in your time. The Helkari, the Voston, have declined. Species that were marginal, the Thessic, primarily, now control most of the commercial infrastructure in this sector. The political landscape, the economic landscape, the cultural landscape, all different. And humans? She hesitates. It's a small hesitation, a fraction of a second, but I notice. I notice because noticing is what I do. It's what my species does. We read micro-expressions, vocal inflections, body language shifts, atmospheric changes. We evolved to detect the rustle in the grass that meant a predator was close. We're still doing it, 10,000 years and 1,000 light years later. Humans were recalled to the Sol system 2 cycles before the conflict, she says. The interdiction was established by the Galactic Security Council under Emergency Protocol 9. The stated reason was containment of a high-risk apex species pending review of integration protocols. The review never concluded. After the conflict, the interdiction was maintained by inertia. Nobody voted to lift it. Nobody voted to extend it. It simply persisted. Containment, I repeat. The word tastes like the mineral flat water. The files from that period are heavily redacted. What I can tell you is that the interdiction was not unanimous. Several species, the Morith, the Galari, a faction within the Thessic Trade Council, objected. They were overruled. The prevailing argument was that humans were too volatile, too adaptive, she searches for the word, Too capable, the hazard index had been compiled over 3 centuries of observation. The data was clear. Humans could survive environments that killed every other species. Humans could learn alien languages in weeks. Humans could improvise weapons from inert materials. Humans formed pair bonds and group loyalties that made them impossible to divide. The council concluded that integration was not viable. They were afraid of us. They were informed about you. Fear was a reasonable response to the information. I let that sit. There's nothing to say to it. She's not wrong. The hazard index was accurate. Everything it said about humans was true. We can survive environments that kill other species. We can learn fast, fight fast, adapt fast. We form bonds that make us stronger than the sum of our parts. We are, by any objective measure, the most dangerous species the galaxy has cataloged, and they locked us away for it. The main concourse is through the corridor to your left, she says. The market district is on level 3. There are food vendors, a medical clinic, and a transit authority office where you can book passage if you have a destination. I don't have a destination. Then the market is a good place to start. People tend to find direction when they have a full stomach. I stand. My legs hold. They're weak. 31 cycles of stasis will do that, but they hold. Human musculature doesn't atrophy the way most species does. Our bodies are built for famine cycles, for long winters, for the kind of evolutionary pressure that says, if you can't stand after 3 days without food, you don't get to have children. My legs are stiff, but they work, and they'll get stronger fast. Drethis is still standing a full step back. He's watching me with the expression of someone who has just realized that the container he opened didn't hold spare parts, or even something alive, but something specific, something with a designation that corresponds to the highest threat category in a system that was retired, because the threat was supposed to be gone. Thank you for the water, I say. He doesn't answer. I walk. The corridor is long, clean, well lit in that blue-white alien standard. The floor is composite, slightly textured for grip, designed for species with smooth footpads. My boots, which are 31 cycles old and should be museum pieces, still fit and still grip. Good boots. I bought them on a station just like this one, from a human gear vendor in the old Concord days, when there were enough humans in the outer shelf to justify a dedicated supply chain. The vendor's name was Hakim. He was from Peshawar. He said these boots would outlast me. He was wrong about that, but only by a technicality. The corridor opens onto the concourse, and I stop. Not because it's overwhelming, I don't get overwhelmed. I stop because I need to assess. This is a reflex. It operates below conscious thought, in the part of my brain that evolved to scan the tree line for motion, to count the exits in a cave system, to estimate the number of threats in a clearing before stepping into it. Some people call it hypervigilance. My species calls it Tuesday. The concourse is large, 50 meters wide, maybe 300 long, with a vaulted ceiling that's partially transparent. I can see stars through it, and the blue-white curve of a planet or moon. The space is filled with vendor stalls, kiosks, food carts, seating areas, information terminals, and people. Hundreds of people, maybe 1,000. At least 12 species that I can identify on site, and 4 or 5 I can't. New arrivals, or species from sectors I never worked in. The architecture has changed. 31 cycles ago, outer shelf stations were functional and ugly. Exposed conduit, bare walls, industrial lighting. This concourse has been rebuilt with something approaching aesthetics. The walls are paneled in a warm composite that mimics natural stone. The lighting is layered. Ambient overhead supplemented by warmer accent lights at vendor level. There are plants. Actual living plants in raised beds along the walkways. Some of them I recognize, Thessic air ferns, Galari moss trees. Some I don't. But the bones are the same. The flow patterns are the same. Vendors on the periphery. Foot traffic in the center. Security checkpoints at the junctions. Maintenance access behind the vendor rows. I can see 3 exits from here without moving my head. 4 if I count the maintenance hatch behind the Galari moss bed at 2 o'clock. I catalog threat density. Low. This is a commercial hub, not a military tree station. The security I can see is light. A pair of station guards near the central junction, armed with sidearms and compliance tools, wearing the green and silver of the Taveth Commerce Authority. They're relaxed. Their weapons are holstered. They're watching a street performer, some kind of Thessic acrobat doing zero-G flips in a localized gravity null. I pass an information terminal, a large curved display set into a kiosk at the concourse junction. It's cycling through news feeds in 3 languages. I stop and read. The Galactic Standard feed is running a story about a trade summit between the Thessic Commerce Federation and something called the Morith Cultural Exchange, an economic bloc that didn't exist in my time. The numbers are large. The language is optimistic. The outer shelf is prosperous, apparently. The conflict is 30 cycles in the rear view, and the species that rebuilt have built well. Another story, a Galari research vessel has mapped a new planetary system in the Kepler Reach. 12 planets, 3 potentially habitable. The habitable ones are rated low risk on the new integrated risk framework, class 2 or 3, equivalent, gentle worlds. Worlds with mild climates and passive biospheres and no apex predators. Worlds that don't kill their inhabitants. The Galari are excited about them, and I understand why. For most species, a habitable world is a gift. For humans, it's a vacation spot. A third story catches my eye. It's a historical piece, a retrospective on the 30th anniversary of the Sol interdiction. There's an image attached, Earth, seen from orbit, blue and white and green. The most beautiful planet in the galaxy, and I'm not saying that because it's mine. I'm saying it because it is. Every species that has ever seen Earth from space has said the same thing. It's stunning. Oceans that cover 70% of the surface, atmosphere that scatters light into a blue sky, cloud formations that paint patterns visible from 1,000 kilometers up, and underneath all that beauty, a biosphere so hostile that it produces the most dangerous sentient species the galaxy has ever cataloged. The contradiction is the point. Beauty and lethality living in the same address. The article is brief. It mentions the interdiction in neutral terms, a security measure that remains in effect. It doesn't mention why. It doesn't mention the hazard index. It doesn't mention what humans can do. It treats the whole thing like a footnote, a historical curiosity, a line item in a textbook, the kind of thing students skip because it's not on the exam. I move on. Slowly because my legs are still finding their rhythm, and because there's no reason to hurry. I'm a displaced person with a transit chit, no money, no contacts, and no destination. Speed is not the operative priority. Observation is. The first thing I notice, the first real thing, beyond architecture and layout and threat density, is sound. The concourse has a sound, not any individual voice or footstep or machine, but a collective sound, a drone made of 1,000 overlapping sources. It's the sound of a marketplace, and it's the same sound marketplaces have made on every world and every station since the first sapient species figured out that trading was more efficient than stealing. I know this sound. I grew up with a version of it. The bazaar in Rawalpindi, where my grandfather sold textiles, had this sound. The overlap of 100 conversations in 3 languages, the clatter of handcarts, the calls of vendors. This concourse is that bazaar, scaled up and translated across species, but the fundamental frequency is identical. The second thing I notice is smell. The concourse smells like a dozen different metabolisms in a shared atmosphere. Human noses are more sensitive than most species realize. Another thing, the hazard index underreported. We can distinguish over 1 trillion distinct olfactory stimuli. We use smell for threat detection, food assessment, social bonding, environmental mapping. Right now, my nose is telling me thesic pheromone markers at elevated levels, Galari spore suppressant from somewhere to my left, ozone from the lighting strips, recycled water vapor, cooking oils from the food district ahead, and underneath all of it, the metallic baseline of station atmosphere. None of it smells like Earth. None of it smells like rain on concrete, or jasmine in the evening, or the particular dusty heat of a Rawalpindi summer. Those smells are 31 cycles and an interdiction away. I note their absence and move forward. The third thing I notice is gravity. Not the magnitude, I've already assessed that, but the quality. Natural gravity pulls you toward a planet. Artificial gravity pushes you against a floor. The direction is the same, but the sensation is different, and humans feel the difference in ways most species don't. Our inner ears are exquisitely calibrated. Our proprioception, the ability to sense the position and movement of our own bodies, is among the most precise in the Concorde's records. We know where we are in space always instinctively the way a fish knows the current. On this station, the artificial gravity is generated from below the deck plates, and it has a faint oscillation at the edge of human perception. A micro-wobble that says the generators are old, maintained but aging, due for a refit in maybe 5 cycles. I file this information. I file everything. My brain doesn't know how to stop. The aliens around me don't notice me. This is one of the things about humans that the galaxy never understood and never will. We're unremarkable to look at. No bioluminescence. No natural armor, no visible claws, horns, venom sacs, or threat displays. We're soft, medium-sized, bipedal, with flat faces and small teeth and eyes that don't glow in the dark. In a crowd of 1,000 aliens, a human is the one you walk past without seeing. We are exactly as threatening as a rock on the side of a trail, which is to say, not threatening at all, until you realize that the rock has been watching you count your steps, and it knows exactly how many it would take to close the distance. I find the food district on level 3, as Tessith directed. It's a sprawl of vendor stalls arranged in concentric rings around a central seating area. The smells are intense and varied, at least 20 different cuisines, each adapted to a different biochemistry. Most of it would kill me. Some of it would merely make me sick. A few vendors sell what the signage calls universal compatible provisions, which means food synthesized to be digestible by most carbon-based species. It won't taste like much, but it won't poison me either. I find one of these vendors a stall run by a Galari, which is a species I trust as far as food safety goes. Galari are obsessive about contamination protocols. They have 7 stomachs and a cultural horror of digestive distress that borders on religious conviction. If a Galari serves you food, you can be confident it won't kill you. Whether it tastes like anything is a separate question. I order a grain bowl. The vendor, a short round Galari with lavender skin and 3 eyes arranged in a vertical line, scans my transit chit, confirms the displaced person meal allowance, and hands me a ceramic bowl of something warm and brown. It looks like porridge. It smells like nothing. I take it to a table in the seating area, sit with my back to the wall and my sight line on the main entrance, and eat. The grain bowl tastes like cardboard that has been taught a faint memory of salt. I eat it steadily without complaint. Food is fuel. Fuel is function. I've eaten worse. On Dorsen, during the 36-hour march, I ate a paste made from ground insect larvae and mineral powder that the quartermaster swore was nutritious. It tasted like the concept of regret. This grain bowl is better than that. Not by much, but by enough. While I eat, I watch. The seating area is a crossroads. Every species on the station passes through here eventually. I watch them move, interact, argue, laugh, eat, check their devices, discipline their children, flirt, haggle, and ignore each other. It's the same as it was 31 cycles ago. The species have changed, some new faces, some old ones absent, but the behavior is identical. People are people, regardless of the number of limbs or the configuration of their respiratory system. They eat, they talk, they worry, they love, they fight. The galaxy turns, the stations orbit, the trade routes shift, and people keep doing the same things they've always done. A Thessic mother walks past with 2 children in tow. The older one is sulking about something, arms crossed, head down, the universal posture of juvenile protest. The younger one is running 3 steps ahead, stopping, spinning, running again. The mother has the expression of every parent in every species, the resigned endurance of someone who loves the chaos more than the silence. On Earth, my mother had the same expression when my brother and I fought over who got the window seat on the train to Multon. She'd let us argue for exactly 2 minutes, then she'd give the window seat to neither of us and sit in it herself. I haven't thought about my mother in 31 cycles. The thought arrives without permission and sits in my chest like a stone. I set it aside. Not down. Aside. There's a difference. Down means you've dealt with it. Aside means you'll come back to it when you can afford to. A pair of station maintenance workers, different from Thessic. These are a species I don't recognize. Tall and thin with iridescent skin that shifts between green and blue, are working on a lighting panel above one of the vendor stalls. One of them is holding a piece of equipment that looks like a crystalline multi-tool. The other is inside the panel, their arms extended to a length that would be anatomically impossible for a human. They work efficiently, without speaking, communicating through subtle shifts in skin color. I watch them for 2 minutes. Their tool technique is clean. Their coordination is precise. Professionals. I respect professionals. I finish the grain bowl and stack the ceramic in the return rack. I wipe my hands on my trousers, another reflex. 31 cycles in stasis and my hands still know what to do after a meal, and stand. The market district stretches out around me. The vendor stalls are organized by category. Food on the inner ring, goods on the outer ring, services in the alcoves between. I walk the outer ring slowly, taking inventory. There's a tool vendor selling fabrication equipment that's 2 generations ahead of what I used on Gauss 4. A textile merchant with bolts of fabric in colors I've never seen. The dyes are synthetic, optimized for alien visual spectra, and some of them emit frequencies my eyes can't fully resolve. A medical supply stall staffed by a Galari pharmacist who is explaining dosage to a customer with the patient thoroughness of someone who believes that misunderstanding is the root of all pharmacological evil. There's a used goods stall run by a Thessic trader who is clearly a junk dealer in the finest sense, a specialist in the orphaned, the obsolete, and the accidentally valuable. His stall is piled with equipment, components, and objects whose original purpose may be lost to time, but whose secondary market value is non-zero. I see, buried under a pile of Galari atmospheric sensors, a human-manufactured datapad. The screen is cracked and the chassis is scratched, but the manufacturer's stamp is visible. Chen Digital, Shenzhen, Earth, a company that made consumer electronics. A company from a planet that's been interdicted for 3 decades. I don't pick it up. I note its location. I'll come back for it when I have credits. I keep walking. I noticed the bar. It's on the inner ring of the food district, set into an alcove with a low ceiling and warm lighting. The sign above it is in 3 scripts: Galactic Standard, Thessic Trade Script, and something I don't recognize. The standard reads, Vales. Simple, unpretentious. The kind of name that says the owner doesn't need to advertise because the regulars already know. Through the open front, I can see the interior. It's small, maybe 15 seats at the bar, another 20 at scattered tables. The light is warm, amber, not the alien blue-white of the concourse. Someone has made an effort to create atmosphere. There are shelves behind the bar lined with bottles of various shapes and colors. There are framed images on the walls. Photographs or prints of landscapes I don't recognize, alien places, beautiful ones. Behind the bar stands a figure I study for several seconds before categorizing. 4 arms, tall, lean, skin the color of old parchment, with a faint pattern of darker markings along the neck and forearms, wide, calm eyes with double lids. The species is Morith, one of the old Concord races known for scholarship, patience, and a cultural tradition of hospitality that predates faster-than-light travel. Morith bars and tea houses are legendary in the outer shelf. If you find one, you sit down. I finish my grain bowl. I stack the ceramic in the return rack. Then I walk to the bar and sit down. The Morith looks at me with all 4 eyes. 2 forward-facing, 2 peripheral. His expression is neutral but attentive. He has the look of someone who has spent a long time behind a bar and has learned to read a customer in the first 3 seconds. Displaced person, he says. It's not a question. That obvious? The boots. Nobody wears that style anymore. And you've been scanning the room since you sat down at the food court. You did it well. Most people wouldn't notice. But I've been watching people for 42 cycles, and I notice. 42 cycles is a long time behind a bar. It's a long time behind anything. He extends one of his upper hands, the Morith greeting. Vale Sothan. This is my place. I take his hand. His grip is firm but careful. Morith have significantly less hand strength than humans, and he's calibrating. He doesn't know my species yet, but he knows I'm stronger than I look. Kesmaro, I say. Behind him, on the wall above the spirit bottles, I notice scratches in the paneling. Small, uniform parallel grouped in 5s. Tally marks. I count them while we talk. Over 100 groups, 512 individual marks. I file the number and wait for context. What can I get you, Kesmaro? Whatever you recommend that won't kill a carbon-based omnivore with tolerance for capsaicin and ethanol. He smiles. It's a small smile. Morith are restrained by nature, but genuine. I have a grain spirit from the Thessic Highlands that would meet those criteria. It's not elegant, but it's honest. Honest is fine. He pours. The liquid is amber, slightly cloudy, with a smell that reminds me of something I can't place. Something from before. From Earth, maybe. Or from one of the human-frequented stations where people brewed things in back rooms and sold them in unmarked bottles. I drink. It burns in the right way, a clean heat that starts in the throat and radiates outward. The Thessic Highlands, whoever they are, know what they're doing. Morith tea houses are legendary, I say, but you serve spirit. I started as a tea house, Vale says. 42 cycles ago. Tea, conversation quiet. Then the demographics shifted. The outer shelf got rougher after the Vekri conflict. People wanted something stronger than tea. I adapted. The tea is still on the menu, if you want it. Maybe later. He leans against the back counter, folding 2 of his arms. You said capsicum tolerance. That's a narrow list of species. Humans, Dorseth, and the Rilvani went extinct 7 cycles ago. I'm human. His 4 eyes go very still. It's the Morith equivalent of a sharp intake of breath, a complete cessation of the constant micro-movements that their eyes normally make. For a Morith, still eyes mean the mind has stopped multitasking and is focusing entirely on one thing. Human, he says. Yes, I haven't served a human in 30 cycles, maybe longer. The last one was a freighter pilot named Dunn. He came through on a supply run to Gauss 4 before the interdiction. He drank Thessic spirit, too. Said it reminded him of something from his homeworld. Whiskey, I say. It probably reminded him of whiskey. He said the same word. I never learned what it meant. It meant the same thing as your Thessic spirit. A grain, fermented, distilled, aged. Every species that figures out agriculture eventually figures out how to make it stronger. Vale nods slowly. 3 of his 4 hands are motionless on the counter. The 4th, the lower left, is doing something I recognize. It's pressing a small alarm strip under the bar ledge, not activating it, just resting on it. A precaution. He's not afraid of me, but he's thorough. The general understanding, he says carefully, is that humans are no longer present in Concord space. The general understanding is wrong, evidently. He pours me another measure of the Thessic spirit without being asked. A hospitality reflex. Morith can't help it. How long were you in stasis? 31 cycles. That would put your ceiling around the start of the Vekri conflict. The second week. I was on Goss 4 when they took the station. Goss 4. I remember that name. It was in the news feeds for months. The Concorde lost it in the first wave, and it changed hands 3 more times before the armistice. He pauses. A lot of people died on Gobbs 4. Yes, but not you, not me. Were there other humans on the station? 2. An engineer named Hakim Ansari and a medical technician named Priya Hatri. Hakim was killed in the initial assault. He was in the communications hub when the first wave hit. Priya was evacuated with the other medical staff before the Vekri secured the station. I don't know if she made it out of the sector. I say this the way I say everything. Flat, factual, without embellishment. Hakim was my friend. He sold boots and told jokes about Peshawar and could fix any piece of communications hardware ever manufactured by any species with nothing but a multi-tool and profanity. He was 41 years old. He had a wife on Earth and a daughter he'd never met because she was born after he shipped out, and the transit time for personal mail was 8 months. He died in a corridor I walked through every day, and I found out 3 hours later when I went looking for him and found the scorch marks on the wall instead. I don't say any of that. Vale doesn't need my grief. He has his own. 42 cycles of it, tallied on the wall behind the bottles. He studies me. The Morith have a cultural concept called telenva, which translates roughly as the weight a person carries that is visible in how they sit. It's the reason Morith make good bartenders. They read bodies the way other species read faces. You carry a lot of weight for someone who spent 31 cycles asleep, he says. The weight was there before I went under. It didn't go anywhere. He accepts that. Morith don't push. It's not in their nature. Can I ask you something, he says. Go ahead. The interdiction. The recall. Your people being sealed away from the rest of the galaxy. In your professional opinion, as someone who was there, who lived in conquered space as a human, was the Council right to be afraid? It's a fair question. He asks it without accusation, without judgment. He asks it the way a scholar asks a question, because he wants to understand, not because he wants to confirm. They were right to be cautious. I say they were wrong to be afraid. Caution is a response to data. Fear is a response to imagination. The hazard index gave them data, accurate data. Humans are dangerous. We're adaptive, resilient, difficult to kill, and we bond in ways that make groups of us more dangerous than the sum. All of that is true, but the index didn't measure the other side. It didn't measure that we also build things. We cooperate. We form treaties and honor them. We grieve our dead and care for our wounded and teach our children to be better than we were. The Council saw the predator and missed the builder. They saw the threat and missed the ally. Vale nods slowly. The Morith delegation made a similar argument at the time. They were outvoted. I know, Tessith told me. My people have always understood humans better than most. We're observers by nature. We watch, we listen, we serve, we remember. And what we observed over 3 centuries of contact was that humans were the only species in the Concorde that treated every other species as equals. Not inferiors, not superiors. Equals. You adjusted your behavior, your language, your customs to match whoever you were with. You learned our tea ceremonies. You learned Galari courtship protocols. You learned Thessic trade script. You adapted to us, and you didn't ask us to adapt to you. That's a rare quality in a species classified as the apex predator of its home world. We adapt, I say. It's what we do. It's what Earth taught us to do. And the Council punished you for it. The Council made a decision based on incomplete information. I've been angry about it. I've had 31 cycles of stasis to be angry about it, which is both too much time and not enough. But anger doesn't open interdictions. Work does. Information does. Finding the others does. You think there are others? There have to be. 200,000 humans in conquered space when the recall was issued. The recall was voluntary for the first 6 months and mandatory after that. But mandatory doesn't mean complete. There were humans on remote stations, on deep space freighters, on colony worlds in the far shelf. Some of them wouldn't have received the recall in time. Some of them would have refused. Some of them would have been captured like me, or hidden, or sealed away in pods that nobody checked. And if you find them, then we talk. Then we decide. Then we do what humans do, we figure it out together. He refills my glass without being asked. I gesture at the tally marks on the wall. Those, 512. What are they? Vale follows my gaze. His lower hands both go still. Payment days, he says. 1 mark for every cycle I've paid the tribute, the Vash Ren, a local crew, reptilian. They've controlled this section of the market district for about 11 cycles. Every vendor on level 3 pays us a percentage to them, every cycle. In return, they don't destroy your stock, break your equipment, or hurt your customers. Station security is aware. Station security also knows the Vashren employ 40 armed enforcers, and the security detachment on this level numbers 12. The math is simple. Security patrols the main concourse and the docking ring. They stay out of the market district, and we pay 11 cycles. That's a long time to pay. It's the cost of doing business in the outer shelf. Every station has something like it. The Concord charters guarantee commerce. They don't guarantee comfort. He picks up a glass and polishes it with his upper right hand. The Vashren take 10%. I can absorb 10%. If I fight, I lose the bar. The bar is 42 cycles of my life. 10% is cheaper than everything. I understand arithmetic, I say. Most people do. I sip and watch the market through the bar's open front. The foot traffic has shifted. It's late cycle now, and the vendors are doing their busiest business. The Galari food stalls have lines. A Thessic fabric merchant is haggling with a customer using a volume and speed of speech that would qualify as assault in some jurisdictions. A group of children, mixed species, 5 or 6 of them, are chasing each other through the seating area, weaving between tables, laughing in sounds that don't translate but don't need to. It's a good market, clean, busy, alive. The kind of place that exists because people need it to exist, because trade is the immune system of civilization, and markets are where the antibodies circulate. Take the market away and the station dies. I've seen it happen. On Gauss 4, when the Vekri shut down the commercial sector, the civilian population collapsed within 2 cycles. Not from violence, from despair. People can survive threat. They can't survive emptiness. The Vashren, I say. How did they get established? Vale puts down the glass he's polishing. 3 of his hands go still. The 4th, the lower left, stays on the alarm strip. After the conflict, there was a power vacuum in the outer shelf. The Concord was restructuring. The new Commerce Authority was understaffed and underfunded. Species that had been displaced by the war, soldiers, mercenaries, people with combat training and no employment, drifted to the transit hubs. The Vashren were originally a mercenary unit in the Vekri Dominance Forces. When the Dominance was dissolved, they didn't go home. They went freelance. Small scale at first, security work, cargo escort. Then they realized that security work paid less than extortion, and the authority didn't have the resources to stop them. How many on this station? 40, give or take. Drassic commands about 15. The rest are split between 2 other bosses who control the upper levels and the docking ring. They don't fight each other. There's an arrangement. Each crew takes a section and the percentages don't overlap. Weapons, standard sidearms, compliance sticks. A few have heavier ordnance in storage, but they don't carry it openly. The authority tolerates their presence because they maintain the pretense of being a private security firm. Open military hardware would break the pretense. Numbers in the immediate vicinity right now? He glances at me. You're doing it again. Doing what? Scanning, cataloging, threat assessment. You've been doing it since you sat down. You did it with the room layout, the exits, the patron count. Now you're doing it with the Vashren. You're building a tactical picture. It's involuntary. My species does it the way yours does hospitality. We can't turn it off. I know. I read about it. Years ago, in an old Morith cultural study, the human resting state is a state of readiness. The author found it terrifying. The author wasn't wrong. No, Vale says. I don't think he was. A vendor across the market, a small Galari running a spice stall, suddenly closes her shutters. She does it quickly, without fuss, with the practiced efficiency of someone who has done it many times. 2 vendors down, a Thessic mechanic pulls a tarp over his display case. The fabric merchant stops mid-haggle and begins packing. They're closing early, I say. They know the schedule, Vale says. His voice has changed. The warmth is still there, but it's buried now, insulated under something harder. The Vashren make their rounds at the same time every cycle. The vendors who can afford to close, close. The ones who can't, the food stalls, the bars stay open and pay. And you stay open. I always stay open. 42 cycles. I don't close for weather, holidays, or reptilian extortion crews. He picks up the glass again and polishes it. It's a point of pride. It might be a stupid point of pride, but it's mine. The bar goes quiet for a moment. The Thessic traders have settled their contract and are ordering around. The Galari is still reading. The young Morith have left. The bioluminescent couple are paying their tab. And then the door fills. I don't look up. I don't need to. I can feel it in the air, the way the temperature in the room changes when a threat enters. Not physical temperature, social temperature. The Thessic traders stop talking mid-sentence. The Galari lowers the handheld by 2 degrees. Vale's hands all go still at once, which for a Morith is the equivalent of a full-body freeze. I count the footsteps. 6 individuals, heavy, confident. The footfall pattern says boots with reinforced soles, military grade or close. The gate says large frame bipeds, maybe 120 to 140 kilograms each. The sound says they're not trying to be quiet, which means they want to be heard. The Thessic traders nearest the door shrink in their seats. One of them reaches for his credit chit without being asked. He's already calculating what he might owe, already rehearsing the deference. The Galari in the booth closes the handheld, slides it into a pocket, and becomes very still, very small. These are the behaviors of prey animals. Not biological prey, these species have their own evolutionary toolkits. But social prey, people who have learned, through 11 cycles of repetition, that the correct response to predation is compliance. Compliance is cheap. Resistance is expensive. The math has been done. I watch all of this from my seat at the bar, with my hands flat on the counter and my empty glass in front of me, and I don't move. Now I look. Reptilian. Green-scaled, with the thick dorsal ridges and wide jaw structure of a predator species from a high-gravity world. Each one is a head taller than me and twice as wide. They're wearing civilian clothes over light body armor, the kind that stops compliance, beam but not much else. 3 of them are carrying sidearms in belt holsters. Energy weapons, compact, probably set to stun but easily adjusted. 2 have compliance sticks, extendable batons that deliver a neural overload on contact. The 6th, the one in front, is unarmed. He doesn't need to be armed. He's the biggest, and he has the look of someone who has never needed a weapon to make a point. They move in a formation that's sloppy enough to be casual and tight enough to be deliberate. The leader in front, the armed ones flanking at 2 and 10 o'clock, the compliance carriers at the rear. It's a pattern designed for intimidation, not combat. The goal is to fill the doorway, to occupy the room, to make every eye in the bar look up and every spine pull straight. It works. It works on everyone except the Galari in the booth, who has gone so still that he might be mistaken for furniture, and me, Vashren, the local enforcers, the ones who carved 512 tally marks into Vale's wall. The leader walks to the bar. He doesn't sit. He stands, and the standing is the statement. I am above this place, above these chairs, above you. Vale, he says. His voice is deep, grinding, accented in a way that puts the emphasis on the wrong syllables for galactic standard. He's speaking it as a second language, and he doesn't care if it sounds right. The cycle payment is due. Vale puts down the glass he was polishing. His 4 hands move with practiced calm. One reaches under the bar, pulls out a credit chit, and places it on the counter. The motion is fluid and rehearsed. He's done this 500 times. Drassic, Vale says. On time, as always. The leader, Drassic, picks up the chit and passes it to one of the armed ones behind him without looking at it. His eyes are on the bar, scanning, cataloging, not for threats, for assets. He's evaluating what Vale has, what it's worth, whether the percentage should go up. His eyes land on me. I'm sitting 3 seats down from where he's standing. I have an empty glass in front of me, and my hands flat on the bar surface. I'm looking at him, because not looking at him would be a performance, and I don't perform. Who's this? Drassic says. A customer, Vale says. I don't recognize the species. She's a displaced person, just processed today. Drassic steps closer. He's examining me the way a large animal examines a small one, not with hostility yet, but with the casual superiority of something that has never been challenged by anything this size. Displaced from where? He asks. He's talking to Vale, not to me. I'm a thing in his frame, not a participant. I'm right here, I say. You can ask me directly. The bar gets quieter. I didn't think that was possible. It was already quiet. But there's a layer of silence below silence, a frequency that only mammals can hear, and we've just dropped into it. Drac turns his head toward me. His eyes are yellow, with vertical slit pupils. The pupils dilate slightly. I've seen that before in reptilian species. It means either interest or aggression. In this context, probably both. Where are you from, displaced person, he says. Earth. He doesn't react. The word means nothing to him. He's too young. This generation grew up after the interdiction, after the records were sealed, after the star charts were cleaned. Earth is a footnote in databases he's never read. Never heard of it, he says. Most people haven't. Is it in the outer shelf? No. It's in the Sol system, Orion Arm, 3rd planet from a G-type main sequence star. What's it classified? Class 16 Deathworld under the old index. This time there is a reaction, not from Drassic. The word means nothing to him. But from the one behind him, the second largest, the one holding the credit chit. He goes rigid. His dorsal ridges flatten against his skull, which is a reptilian threat suppression reflex, the body making itself smaller, pulling in the vulnerable points. He knows the classification system. He's old enough, or educated enough, to know what Class 16 means. Drassic, he says. Low, quiet. What? We should go. We're not finished. We're finished. The second one's voice has changed. The grinding confidence is gone. What's left is careful and flat. The payment is collected. We're done here. Drassic looks at his subordinate, then back at me. He's not stupid, I can see that. He's aggressive, he's dominant. He's built his career on the mathematics of intimidation. But he's not stupid. And he can read his subordinate's body language, and he knows that when a Vashren enforcer who has broken bones for a living says, "We should go," there's a reason. But he's also proud, and pride, in a dominant predator, is a structural flaw. It load bears for the ego, and when the load shifts, it doesn't flex. It cracks. "I don't take orders from you," Drassic says to the subordinate. Then he turns back to me. Class 16. What does that mean? It means the planet I come from is hostile enough to kill most species within 48 hours of unprotected exposure, I say. High gravity, extreme temperature variance, toxic atmosphere in some regions, predator density in the 99th percentile, tectonic instability, pathogenic biosphere. I could go on, and you survive that? I grew up in it. My species evolved in it over several million years. We're adapted to a world that actively tries to kill us every day. I pause. That makes us hard to kill anywhere else. The bar is now in the deepest layer of silence. The one where you can hear the station's environmental system cycling and the hum of the artificial gravity and your own blood moving. Drassic stares at me. His jaw muscles are working. The reptilian equivalent of a human clenching their teeth. He's deciding. The smart move is to leave. The proud move is to stay. I've seen this calculation before. I've seen it in the eyes of every predator species I've worked with, trained alongside, or been threatened by. The ones who listen to the smart move survive. The ones who listen to the proud move learn something. You're small, he says. For someone from a dangerous world, we are, I agree. I've broken things larger than you, I'm sure. So why should I be impressed? I look at him. Not up, he's taller, but I don't tilt my head. I look at his center mass, his hips, his weight distribution. He's front heavy. His balance is biased toward his dominant right side. His dorsal ridges are fully extended, which means his neck muscles are flexed, which means his reaction time on a leftward pivot is degraded by about 15%. His sidearm-carrying subordinates are positioned behind him, which means they can't fire without risk of hitting him. His compliant stick carriers are at the flanks, but they're frozen. They've read the room, and they're not committing until their leader does. I process all of this in the time it takes to take one breath. I don't think about it, my body thinks about it. This is what Class 16 means. Not strength, not speed, not size. Assessment, pattern recognition. Threat modeling at a speed that predates conscious thought. My ancestors did this on the savannah, in the dark, with stone tools and bare feet, against animals that outweighed them 10 to 1. I do it sitting at a bar with an empty glass in front of me. I didn't say you should be impressed, I say. I said I was from Earth. You asked what it meant, I told you. What you do with that information is your business. Drassic's jaw muscles stop working. His eyes narrow. The slit pupils contract to thin lines. You don't seem afraid, he says. No. Everyone in this district is afraid of me. I'm not from this district. I'm from a Class 16 Deathworld. I've been in stasis for 31 cycles. I woke up 3 hours ago. I've had 1 bowl of bad grain porridge and 2 glasses of Thessic spirit. I'm tired, I'm stiff, and I would like to sit here quietly and drink until I feel like a person again. If you're finished collecting your payment, I'd appreciate it if you left. The room stops breathing. Drassic's right hand moves. It's a fast move, faster than you'd expect from a frame that size. He reaches across the bar space toward me, palm open, claws extended. It's not a killing move. It's a dominance move, a grab for my collar or my throat, the kind of gesture that says I own this space and everything in it. His hand gets within 18 centimeters of my neck. I catch his wrist. I don't stand up. I don't shift my weight. I don't change my expression. I catch his wrist with my right hand, the way you'd catch a ball someone tossed to you, casual, unhurried, as if the catching were the most ordinary thing in the world. My thumb finds the carpal depression on the inside of his wrist, the soft triangle between the tendons where the blood vessels run close to the surface. On humans, it's where you check for a pulse. On reptilian species, the anatomy is different, but the vulnerability is the same. Tendons, blood vessels, nerve bundles, all converging in a space smaller than a coin. I know this anatomy. I know the anatomy of 11 sapient species, because on Dorsen, the instructors made us study it, not as academics, as operators. You can't control what you can't grip, and you can't grip what you don't understand. Sergeant Osi said that. He was the best hand-to-hand instructor in the Concord Mixed Forces training program, and he was a human from Accra who had hands like cable winches and a teaching philosophy rooted in precision. And I hold. He pulls. I feel the force significant, probably around 300 kilograms of tensile effort. His arm muscles bulge under the scales. His feet scrape the floor as he braces. His jaw opens and his teeth are visible, the double-row dentition of a carnivore species. yellowed at the tips, functional. My hand doesn't move. The other enforcers react. The sidearm carriers shift. Their hands go to their weapons. A reflex, but they don't draw. They can't draw. Their leader is between them and me, and a sidearm at this range would hit him first. The compliant stick carriers at the flanks raise their batons to ready position. But they don't advance. They're watching their leader, waiting for a command that isn't coming. Because their leader is currently occupied with the fact that a creature half his size has stopped his arm in the air with one hand. The bar patrons have gone past silence into something else, a kind of communal paralysis, the state where the brain stops processing new information and just records. The Thessic traders are frozen in their seats. The Galari has his 3 eyes locked on the point of contact between my hand and Drassic's wrist. The young server against the back wall has both hands over her mouth. This is the part the galaxy never understood. It's not that humans are the strongest species. We're not. There are species that can bench press a shuttle. It's that our strength is hidden. It's disproportionate. It's not advertised by our frame, our teeth, our posture. A Vashran enforcer looks at me and sees a soft, small, medium frame biped with no claws, no armor, no visible threat markers. What he doesn't see is the grip strength. Humans have the strongest sustained grip of any known bipedal species in Concord records. Our hands evolved to hold tools, hold weapons, hold on to cliff faces, hold on to each other during floods and fires and falls. We grip and we don't let go. Drassic pulls again. Harder. His dorsal ridges are fully flattened now. The threat suppression reflex has kicked in, and his body knows, even if his brain doesn't, that the math has changed. I apply pressure, not much. Just enough to compress the carpal cluster in his wrist to the threshold where the bones threaten to shift. It's a precise amount. I learned it during hand-to-hand qualification on Cathara V from an instructor named Sergeant Osi, who had hands like cable winches, and a teaching philosophy that could be summarized as, know the anatomy, find the limit, stop before the break. Drassic stops pulling. His mouth is open, but no sound is coming out. His eyes are very wide. The slit pupils are dilated to full circles, which means his sympathetic nervous system has taken over, which means he's in fight or flight, and flight is winning, but his pride won't let his legs move. I'm going to let go now, I say. When I do, you're going to take your crew and leave this bar. You're going to walk to the exit. You're not going to run, because running would embarrass you in front of your people, and I don't want to embarrass you. You're going to leave, and you're not going to come back to this bar. Not today, not tomorrow, not on any cycle that I'm sitting in it. Do you understand? He doesn't answer. His jaw is working again, but no words come. Nod if you understand, I say. He nods. The motion is small, tight, involuntary. His body is cooperating even if his ego isn't. I let go. He pulls his arm back. He cradles his wrist with his other hand. He looks at it as if expecting to see damage, and there is none. No bruise, no break, no mark, just the ghost of pressure. The memory of force that was precisely calibrated to demonstrate capacity without inflicting harm. He looks at me one more time. I see it happen, the moment where the pride tries to reassert, tries to say, go back, finish this, you're bigger, you're armed, you have 5 behind you. And then the other thing, the older thing, the survival instinct that predates pride, the thing that every predator species has buried somewhere beneath the ego, says no, walk away. That thing is something you haven't seen before, and it's not afraid, and the fact that it's not afraid is the information you need. He walks, his crew follows. The one who told him to leave in the first place, the educated one, the one who knew what Class 16 meant, is the last out the door. He pauses at the threshold. He looks back at me. Our eyes meet. He nods, once. Not a threat. An acknowledgement. The acknowledgement of a soldier, because that's what he is under the enforcer veneer, who has just seen something that recalibrates his understanding of the hierarchy. Then he's gone. The bar exhales. It happens in stages. First, the bodies unclench, shoulders dropping, spines softening, hands releasing the edges of tables they've been gripping. Then the breathing normalizes. The shallow, silent breathing of people trying not to be noticed gives way to the deeper, audible breathing of people who are permitted to exist again. Then the eyes move, first to the empty doorway, confirming the absence, and then to me, confirming the cause. The Thessic traders are staring. One of them has his mouth open. The Galari has emerged from his stillness and is sitting upright, all 3 eyes wide, the handheld forgotten on the table. A server, a young Thessic woman who had been frozen against the back wall during the encounter, lets out a sound that's half law, half sub, and covers her mouth with both hands. Nobody speaks for approximately 9 seconds. I count. Then the server says, very quietly, "'Cause happened." Nobody answers her, because nobody knows. They saw it, but they don't have a framework for it. A small, unarmed, Unarmored biped of an unknown species just stopped a Vashren enforcement leader with one hand, delivered instructions in a voice that carried no anger and no threat and no volume, and 6 armed reptilians enforcers out the door without a shot fired, a bone broken, or a drop of anything spilled. The mechanics of what happened are clear. The meaning of what happened is not. I pick up my empty glass and set it on the bar. Could I get another? I say to Vale. Vale is standing motionless behind the bar with all 4 hands flat on the counter. His double eyelids are cycling rapidly, the Morith stress response. He's been watching a scene that his 42 cycles behind the bar did not prepare him for. He pours. The spirit splashes slightly. His hands are shaking. Morith hands don't shake. That's how I know the impact. Thank you, I say. Don't thank me, he says. I didn't do anything. You served me when I sat down. You didn't ask what I was. You poured spirit for a stranger. That's something. He stares at me for a long time. Then he reaches under the bar, slowly, making sure I can see the motion, and pulls out a tablet. He types something. I watch his upper hands work the interface while his lower hands stay flat on the counter, still trembling. I'm accessing the old archive, he says. The station's historical database. The one from before the administrative transition. It hasn't been accessed in, he checks, 14 cycles. What are you looking for? Your classification, the one you mentioned. Class 16 Deathworld, Homo sapiens. He finds it. I know he finds it because his hands stop shaking. They don't relax, they go rigid. There's a difference. Shaking is fear. Rigidity is understanding. He reads. I let him read. The entry isn't long. I've seen it before in the old hazard index files. It's clinical, dispassionate, and deeply insufficient. It lists the environmental parameters of Earth. The gravity, the atmospheric composition, the temperature extremes, the seismic activity, the predator density, the pathogenic load. It lists the average physical capabilities of Homo sapiens, grip strength, endurance range, pain tolerance, healing rate, sensory acuity, neural processing speed. It lists the combat qualifications, close quarters engagement metrics, improvised weapon proficiency, group tactical coordination scores. It lists the incident reports, the ones that were filed before the interdiction, the ones that documented what happened when humans were placed in mixed species combat units, or stationed on alien worlds, or threatened by species that didn't know better. It lists the kill ratios. The Thessic trader who had his mouth open closes it. He's reading over Vale's shoulder, not intentionally, but the tablet is angled toward the room, and Thessic have excellent distance vision. Whatever he reads makes him sit down very carefully and place both hands flat on the table, as if the table might move without his permission. Vale sets his tablet down. He looks at me. Deathworlder, he says. The word falls into the bar like a stone into water. The Thessic traders hear it. The Galari hears it. Everyone hears it. It's a word most of them have never heard spoken aloud, a word from old files and historical footnotes and the kind of military briefings that junior officers skip because the information is outdated and the species is extinct. Except I'm sitting right here, drinking Thessic spirit, and the species isn't extinct after all. The word ripples outward. I can track its effect across the room, like a pressure wave. The Thessic trader who read over Vale's shoulder whispers it to his companions. Their contract, their round of drinks, their entire reason for being in this bar, all of it evaporates. They're staring at me with the expression of people who have just realized that the historical footnote is breathing, and it's 3 meters away, and it just stopped a Vashren enforcement leader with one hand. The Galari in the booth has picked up his handheld again. He's typing rapidly. He's not reading anymore, he's writing. Recording in a cycle, maybe less. Someone on a data feed somewhere will post a report about a human sighting on Taveth Nor Station, and the report will either be believed or dismissed as fiction, and it won't matter either way because I'll be here regardless. The server, the young woman, has lowered her hands from her mouth. She's looking at me with an expression I recognize. It's not fear. It's not awe. It's something quieter. The expression of someone who has just watched a fundamental assumption about the universe get overturned and who is still deciding how to feel about it. I've seen that expression before on the faces of alien cadets at the Concord training facilities, the first time they saw a human run the endurance course or shrug off a blow that would have disabled anyone else. It's the expression that precedes understanding. Understanding takes time. I have time. Yes. I say, how many of you are left? I don't know. Before the interdiction, there were approximately 200,000 humans in Concord space. I don't know how many made it back to Earth. I don't know how many are sealed in stasis pods on captured stations. I don't know how many are still out there in forgotten bays and decommissioned sections and lost records. I might be the only one. I might be one of thousands. What will you do? Find out. He nods. The rigidity in his hands softens slightly. He picks up the spirit bottle, pours his own glass. I've never seen a Morith bartender drink on shift before. It must violate 6 cultural protocols, and raises it. To finding out, he says. I raise my glass. We drink. The Thessic traders are whispering. The Galari has put the handheld down entirely and is watching me with all 3 eyes. Someone at a table near the door is tapping a device, probably sending a message. The word is going to spread. Within a cycle, maybe less, every vendor on level 3 will know that a human walked into Vale's bar, a Deathworlder, a living remnant of a species the galaxy thought it had filed away. Station security will be informed. The Commerce Authority will be notified. Someone will pull the old files, and the old files will tell them what the hazard index told them 30 cycles ago, and they'll have to decide what to do about a classification they thought they'd never have to think about again. I don't care about any of that. Not yet. That's tomorrow's problem, and I've learned. From 31 cycles of nothing, from the long blank of stasis, from the machine hiss, that was the last thing I heard, and the first thing I heard, that tomorrow is a luxury. Today is the operational reality. Today I'm alive. My legs work, my hands work, I can drink Thessic spirit in a Morith bar on a station I've never seen, and the spirit tastes like something a man from Peshawar would have recognized. And the bar is warm, and the bartender is kind, and the enforcers are gone. I finish the drink. I set the glass down. I reach for my transit chit to pay. Vale puts his upper right hand on the chit, gently, and pushes it back toward me. The drinks are on the house, he says. Today and any day you sit here, that's not necessary. It is, actually. You just removed the single largest operational cost I've had for 11 cycles. The tally marks on that wall represent approximately 40% of my net revenue over that period. If the Vashren don't come back, and I don't think they will, not while you're here, then the least I can offer is a free drink. I look at the tally marks. 512 I counted earlier. 512 cycles of paying someone for the privilege of running your own business. 512 times reaching under the bar for the credit chit. 512 times watching the enforcer's back as he walked out. 512 times picking up the glass and polishing it, because that's what you do when you can't do anything else. All right, I say. Thank you, Vale. Thank you, Kesmaro. I stand. My legs are steadier now. The spirit, the food, the 3 hours of being awake and moving and using my body like a body instead of a specimen. It's working. I'm not recovered. Full recovery will take weeks, but I'm functional, and functionals is all I've ever needed. I walk to the door. At the threshold, I stop. Not because of the enforcers. They're gone. Swallowed into the market district, licking a wound that didn't bleed. I stop because of the concourse beyond. It's larger from this angle. The vaulted ceiling with its transparent panels shows a sky full of stars I don't recognize. The planet below or above, depending on your orientation, is blue, white, and vast. Not Earth, not my sky, not my stars. Everything I knew is 31 cycles gone, sealed behind an interdiction I didn't agree to, on a planet I can't reach, in a life that happened to someone who shares my name but not my time. And yet, the station hums, the gravity holds, the air cycles. People move through the concourse, Thessic, Galar, Morith. Species I can't name, species I'll learn. They're carrying bags, holding children, arguing into devices, eating food that would kill me, drinking drinks that would put me in a coma, and living lives that have nothing to do with me, and everything to do with the same thing my life is about. Getting through the day, and then the next one, and then the one after that, I step into the concourse. A Thessic trader bumps my shoulder. An accident, a crowded walkway, no malice. He mutters an apology in trade script without looking at me. I'm unremarkable. Small, soft. A displaced person with old boots and no destination. Good. I find the Transit Authority office on the far side of the concourse. It's a small, bureaucratic space with 3 service windows and a waiting area with chairs designed for 6 different body types. None of them fit humans, but I find one that approximates, and I sit. The officer at the window is a Thessic, different from Tessith, older, more tired, with the worn-down efficiency of someone who processes 100 cases a day and doesn't remember any of them. Displaced person registration, I say. Presenting my transit chit. He scans it, types. Doesn't look at me. Species. Human origin, Sol 3. Status displaced. Duration of displacement. 31 standard cycles. He pauses on the last data point, and for the first time, he looks up. 31 cycles. That's a long displacement. It felt shorter, I say. He almost smiles. Almost. Destination? I need to access the old Concord personnel records. Specifically, I need a list of human nationals who were in outer shelf space at the time of the Sol interdiction. Duty stations, last known locations, and any stasis registrations that were filed. That's a restricted archive. I'm a displaced person with a legitimate interest in locating members of my own species. Concord Regulation 4471, subsection 8, grants displaced persons access to personnel records relevant to family reunification and species continuity efforts. He stares at me. I stare back. I know the regulation because I read it on Tessith's tablet while she was processing me. I read fast. It's a human trait that doesn't get listed in the hazard index, but probably should. Subsection 8, he repeats. Subsection 8. He types some more. I'll submit the access request. Processing time is 5 to 7 cycles. You'll be notified on your transit chit. Thank you. Is there anything else? Yes. Is there a work registry on this station? Manual labor, maintenance, infrastructure. I'm a qualified structural engineer with certifications in composite fabrication, zero-G welding, and hazardous environment construction. He blinks. Those certifications would be 31 cycles old. Physics hasn't changed in 31 cycles. Composite still bonds the same way. Welding still fuses the same way. The tools might be different, but the principles are the principles. He pulls up the work registry. There's a posting for structural repair on the outer hull. Section 12F. It's a hard vacuum assignment. Most species require full environmental suits and a 4-person team. I'll take it. The posting specifies. I'll take it. Log me in. He logs me in. He gives me a work chit, a second rectangle that hums against my skin. It has a start time, a section number, and a pay rate that is modest by any standard but more than 0, which is what I currently have. I pocket the chit and walk. The concourse is changing with the cycle. The bright, busy energy of the afternoon trade hours is giving way to something quieter. The vendor stalls on the periphery are closing. Their operators pulling down shutters and securing inventory. The food carts are doing a last round of business, catching the late shift workers heading to or from the docking ring. The overhead lights have shifted. Still blue-white, but dimmer, programmed to mimic the gentle decline of a planetary evening. It's a small thing, but it matters. Circadian rhythm is hardwired. Even aliens need their bodies to believe the day is ending. I walk past the food district, past the spice stall that was closed by the Galari vendor before the Vashren came. She's reopened now. I can see her through the half-raised shutter, carefully rearranging her stock, checking each container. She looks up as I pass and our eyes meet. She doesn't know who I am. She doesn't know what happened in Vael's bar. But she knows the Vashren came and went. And the market is still standing, and that's enough for tonight. Past Vael's bar. The warm amber light is still on. He wasn't joking about never closing. Through the open front, I can see him at his station, polishing a glass, serving a late customer, looks up. He sees me. He raises one hand, the upper right, the greeting hand, and holds it there for a moment. I raise mine in return. A salute between two people who understand arithmetic, but also understand that some things are worth more than percentages. I keep walking. The residential section is in the station's inner ring, behind the commercial areas. The corridors are narrower here, less polished, with the utilitarian finish of spaces that aren't meant to impress anyone. The doors are close together. Small quarters, dense housing, the kind of place where transient workers and displaced persons stack up between jobs and departures. The air smells different here, lived in, accumulated, layered with the chemical signatures of a dozen different species' metabolisms. My nose catalogs. Thessic keratin oil, Galari spore suppressant, Morath incense, and at least 4 others I don't have names for. I find the displaced person quarters. They're small, a bunk, a storage locker, a shared washroom down the hall. The bunk is designed for Thessic proportions, which means it's slightly too narrow and slightly too short, but I've slept in worse. I've slept on the volcanic flats of Dorsen in a heat-resistant bivvy, with the ground trying to cook me through the insulation. A narrow bunk is a luxury. I sit on the edge of the bunk and pull off my boots. The boots Hakim recommended, 31 cycles ago, in a vendor stall on a station that no longer exists. They're scuffed, stiff, and the left sole is starting to separate at the toe. They've been in stasis with me for 3 decades, and stasis is not kind to leather. I'll need to repair them or find new ones. But not today. I set the boots by the door, toes pointing out ready to step into. Another reflex. On Dorsen, the instructor said, boots by the door, toes out, laces loose. You may need to be vertical in 4 seconds. 4 seconds is the average response time for a class 16 human. Most species need 12. I lie down. The station's environmental system hums. The artificial gravity holds me against the mattress with its patient, mechanical insistence. The lights dim to their night cycle. Still too blue, still wrong for human circadian rhythms, but close enough. I close my eyes. Behind the darkness, I see things. Gauss 4. The corridor where they caught me. 3 Vekri soldiers, green-scaled, not unlike Drassic's crew, but older, harder. with the discipline of a military rather than the bravado of a gang. They'd cornered me in the communications hub. I'd been trying to send a burst transmission to the Concord fleet. Coordinates, force disposition, infrastructure weaknesses. Civilian contractor work doesn't typically include intelligence gathering, but when your station is taken by hostile forces and you're the only one with access to the communications array, the job description expands. They caught me. They didn't kill me. They were under orders to capture human specimens for study. The Vekri had never encountered a Class 16 species in the field, and their intelligence division wanted live samples. They sedated me. They put me in Bay 9. They filed a report. And then the war happened, and the report was lost, and the station changed hands, and the bay was decommissioned on paper, but not in practice. And the lock held for 31 cycles until it didn't. The lock broke first. I think about Hakim, the boots he sold me, the wife and daughter he left on Earth. Did they know he died? Did the Concorde send notification before the interdiction slammed shut? Or did they wait, cycle after cycle, for a message that never came until waiting became its own kind of answer? I think about Priya, the medical technician who was evacuated. She was 26, Gujarati, with quick hands and a laugh that carried. She specialized in xenobiology, alien physiology, alien medicine. She could set a Thesic compound fracture or treat a Galari spore infection or deliver a Morith infant, and she did all of it with the same calm focus that humans bring to everything that matters. If she made it out of the sector, if she made it past the interdiction, she's on Earth now. 60 years old, maybe, or sealed in a pod somewhere, like I was. Or dead. I don't know. I need to know. I think about Earth, the blue planet on the news terminal's retrospective. The third rock from a G-type star, the Class 16 Deathworld that produced a species the galaxy couldn't handle. Home. The word is small and heavy, like a stone in the pocket. I carry it. I'm here. Earth is interdicted. My people are scattered or gone or hiding or sealed in pods across 100 stations, forgotten by a galaxy that decided we were too dangerous to remember. The star charts don't show Sol anymore. The databases say Homo sapiens is a historical species. The hazard index that classified us has been retired, replaced by a system that doesn't need a category for us, because the category is supposed to be empty. But the category isn't empty. I'm in it. And if I'm in it, others might be too. Pods on captured stations, displaced persons on transit hubs, humans who slipped through the interdiction net, who hid, who waited, who did what humans do when the world tries to make them extinct, survived. I'll find them. Not today. Today is for sleeping. For letting the stasis-weakened muscles knit, for letting the Thesic spirit do its slow, honest work on the parts of me that aren't physical. Tomorrow is for the hull repair job, hard vacuum, composite fabrication, honest work that will make my hands strong again and put credits on my chit. The day after is for checking the archive request. The day after that is for whatever comes next. I don't hurry. Humans don't hurry when the timeline is measured in cycles rather than seconds. We're sprinters when we need to be. The galaxy knows that, or used to, but we're also marathon runners. Long-haul endurance. The kind of patience that comes from evolving on a world where the seasons change and you either plan for winter or you die in it. I've been in winter for 31 cycles. Now it's spring and I have work to do, and I'm patient, and the lock broke first. The station hums. The gravity holds. The bunk is narrow and the lights are too blue and the air smells like 12 species that aren't mine. But the wall is solid behind my back and my boots are by the door. And tomorrow there's work, and somewhere in this galaxy there are others like me, sealed and forgotten, waiting for the lock to break. I sleep, and when I wake, I'll start looking, station to station, hub to hub, bay to bay, checking every forgotten corridor and decommissioned section and corrupted file for the ones the galaxy filed away and stopped thinking about. They forgot about Bay 9 for 30 cycles. The lock broke first. I wonder how many other locks are breaking.